Good evening. Good evening. I actually produced a thing, or made it. Uh, I made the possible content, the direction it went, and then I made the animations, and then then I made the music. So there might be musical numbers if we touch upon those landmarks. I don't know. I don't know if they're actually going to do it, but there's a roadmap. I made the roadmap, or Gemini made the roadmap. I told Gemini to make the roadmap. See, itinerary for so go itinerary concepts, treating abstract mathematical frontiers as physical landscapes. Here's all the places, and it even has the possible songs. And if we come across a song, I'll put it up on the thing because I made one with lyrics, and it's a little harder to make ones with lyrics because sometimes it sucks. Then no markdown, please no markdown. And also cool it with your normal go-to phrases, which I will not repeat here. I think you know what you mean. I think you know what I mean. Ghost in the shell, ghost in the machine. Alright. There we go. Hold on. I just know. Here we go. Cough is not that bad anymore. Alright. Get into a Magic Schoolbus frame of mind. I'll wait. Okay. There we go. Turning on the keys. The ignition's a little late here. Let me just pump the brakes here. Pump the gas. Maybe I need a license.
Farther than far away, Akka adventures in Super-Duper-Esoteric math, featuring they might be giants. Mess. Frizzle's classroom a vibrant day. The bus is parked against the wall in its usual cheerful yellow state. Posters about science line the walls. As the episode begins, Phoebe raises her hand timidly. Phoebe? Mess. Frizzle. At my old school, we learned that mathematics is the universal language. It's the one thing that's always true, right? 2 plus 2 always equals 4, and a triangle is always a triangle, no matter what planet you're on. It doesn't change. Carlos makes a loud buzzer sound. Dorothy Ann is already looking in her book, a skeptical frown on her face. Miss Frizzle, an excellent question. Phoebe, you're talking about the bedrock of certainty in math. To get a better handle on it, I suggest we take a field trip to where it all began. To the very foundation of mathematical truth. Take chances, make mistakes, and get messy. The class cheers, grabbing their permission slips. They file onto the bus. Mess. Frizzle follows, her dress pattern shifting into tiny protractors and compasses. She gets in the driver's seat and turns to Liz the lizard.
We'll be okay, right?
Miss Frizzle. Liz, plot a course for certainty. Route 1. Absolute geometry. Liz blinks and pushes a button on the dashboard with her nose. The bus's engine roars to life, but instead of a rumble, it emits a clean, crystalline chime. The tires spin, and the bus begins to shrink, accelerating straight toward the classroom blackboard, which is covered in geometric doodles. The bus plunges into the board, and the world outside the windows dissolves into swirling black lines on a white background, which then settle. Mess. Frizzle. Welcome, class, to Euclid's boardwalk. The scene outside the bus is stunningly, unnervingly clean. The ground is a flat, uniform plane made of perfect squares. Road markings are crisp, unending straight lines. In the distance, crystalline trees grow into perfect cylinders topped with perfect spheres. A dodecahedron hangs in the sky, projecting an even, white light. Carlos! Whoa! Everything looks so neat. It's like the whole world was drawn with a ruler and a compass. Dorothy Han, according to my research. Ness. Frizzle, this is a world based on the postulates of Euclidean geometry, the earliest formal mathematical system. Everything here can be logically derived from a few basic truths. Ralphie, so a square is always a square? No funny business? Ness. Frizzle, that's the shape of it, Ralphie. Here, angles are discrete, lengths are either whole numbers or simple fractions, and everything fits together perfectly. And notice the road? It's made of integers. The bus hums along the road, its tires making a satisfying click, click, click sound as they cross the marked integers. Suddenly, a shimmer appears in the road ahead, like a heat haze on asphalt. The road ahead seems to buckle just slightly. Arnold hums. Frizzle, what's that crack up ahead? It doesn't look geometric. The bus hits the shimmer with a deafening crack. The perfect road beneath them shatters into a million shards of glass. The bus lurches, and the windows fill with cascading digits from the square root of 2, an infinite, non-repeating cascade. Wanda, what's happening? The road is falling apart. The bus skids to a halt in the wreckage. On the bus windows, flat cartoon fractals in the shape of John Linnell and John Flansburgh suddenly appear. They begin to tap dance.
Okay, I guess now it's time for the song. Okay, hold on. Let me put on this 8-track tape. Untitled, I think it is. Yeah. Oh, that's it. That's the one. Oops. Oops. That's not the title of the song.
Excuse me, Miss Frizzle, I got some concerning new data. Regarding the length of a side I measured later, crosses the square from the left to the right. We call the diagonal into the fight. Oh no. Oh dear. The numbers ran out, but the line kept going. There's a number called square root of 2, and it's showing it never stops ticking. It acts irrational. We've got a scandal nearly international. You cannot construct it, you can't make it land. There's monsters beneath every grain of sand. Nothing stops. Oh, 1, 2, 3. We count them like fingers, happy as can be. 4, 5, 6. The blocks fit together in a perfect mix. There is not a gap. They're in a perfect mix. There is never a reason for a crack. There's never a reason for looking back. Robot A.
Oh no! I think probably should have played that a little earlier. I was like, but hey, we seem to be moving along the itinerary just fine. So I'll figure out a way to be a little more organic. A little more organic.
John L. Hello, kiddos. John F. Heard you ran into some irrational numbers. The polka music starts blasting through the buzz's speakers. John L. and John F. sing their hooligan blues, while the class looks out in horror as the orderly world outside dissolves into jagged, uncertain edges. As the song ends in a saxophone wail, the road's surface reforms. Mess. Frizzle. As you can see, class, the universe isn't always as neat as Euclid would like. Some numbers just refuse to behave. The discovery of irrational numbers was like finding a crack in the foundation of mathematics. Phoebe. So, 2 plus 2 is still 4, but sometimes a length can be impossible to write down. That doesn't make sense. Ness. Frizzle. Exactly, Phoebe. And that's why we're heading to our next stop, where things get even less certain. Liz pulls a lever labeled iterate, and the bus's wheels morph into corkscrews. The straight road ahead begins to ride like a snake, twisting into self-similar patterns. The bus dives into a fern-like structure growing from the road, and inside, they see an exact copy of themselves diving into the same fern, smaller and smaller.
Oh. Mm-mm.
Ralphie, whoa, we're inside a giant broccoli, and we're copycats. Darthian, not broccoli, Ralphie. We're inside a fractal, a geometric shape that exhibits self-similarity at all scales. The pattern repeats no matter how close you look. Tim, but how does the bus know where to go? There's no road anymore, just branches. Frizzle, good observation, Tim. We're not using a road map anymore. We're navigating using the principles of calculus. The bus is now powered by derivatives. A display on the dashboard lights up, showing the bus burning slope to create thrust. Mess. Frizzle grins. Mess. Frizzle. As the road gets steeper, we get more power. It's all about the rate of change. Frizzle. And speaking of change, it's time for a little detour. She points the bus toward what looks like a sheer cliff face. As the bus approaches the edge, Arnold screams and clutches his seat. Arnold, Miss, Frizzle, we're going to fall. I knew I should have stayed home today. Miss, Frizzle, don't worry, Arnold. In this particular place, down isn't necessarily down. As the bus reaches the cliff's edge, instead of falling, it rotates 90 degrees in midair. The world shifts, and what was down becomes sideways as the bus drives along what was once the vertical cliff face. The landscape outside has transformed into a coastline that shouldn't exist, curves spiraling into complex patterns. Keisha, what is this place? Miss Frizzle, we've arrived at the imaginary coast where numbers take on a whole new dimension. The real number line we're used to is only half the story. The other half involves the imaginary unit, which is the square root of -1. Dorothy Han, but you can't take the square root of a negative number. My research says it's impossible. Miss.
Is it original research?
Frizzle. Impossible on the real number line,
Peer
perhaps,
review?
but not here. When you combine real and imaginary numbers, you get the complex plane, a two-dimensional space where suddenly everything makes sense in a new way. The bus continues driving along the coastline, which is now revealed to be the boundary of the famous Mandelbrot set, a stunningly complex pattern of infinite detail and beauty. Carlos, these shapes, they look like seahorses and lightning bolts and galaxies all mixed together. John L. S. face appears on a window panel, followed by John F.'s. John L., you're seeing the beauty of iteration. John F., take a simple rule, apply it over and over, and what do you get? Complexity beyond imagination. Mess. Frizzle.
Oh, no.
Exactly. And this complexity applies to many natural systems, from coastlines to clouds, from population dynamics to the beating of a human heart. Mathematics isn't just about static measurements anymore. It's about dynamic systems and change itself. As the bus approaches a particularly intricate section of the coastline, Liz reaches up with a tiny lizard paw and adjusts a dial labeled resolution. Instantly, the view magnifies, revealing smaller versions of the same intricate patterns repeating at every scale. Wanda, it goes on forever. You can keep zooming in and it's never the same, but always the same. Mess. Frizzle. A perfect description of a fractal. Wanda. And now, it's time to see what happens when mathematics turns inward and starts questioning its own foundations. Liz pushes another button, this one labeled Logic Loop. The coastline dissolves, replaced by a swirling vortex of symbols, axioms, and theorems.
See problem.
The bus flies through the vortex before emerging into a bizarre landscape. A ravine with impossible architecture. Stairways that seem to lead both up and down simultaneously. Waterfalls flowing upward into themselves. And bridges crisscrossing at impossible angles. This is Escher's ravine. Phoebe, I'm getting dizzy just looking at this. Are those stairs going up or down? Dorothy Ann, it's a visual paradox. According to my research, this is a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional object that couldn't possibly exist in our reality. The bus rolls forward along the path that seems reasonable at first. But as it progresses, the class realizes it's now driving upside down. Yet they don't fall out of their seats. Arnold, I feel sick. This place violates every law of physics I know. Mess. Frizzle, that's because we've left the realm of physical laws, Arnold, and entered the world of formal logic. Here, we're exploring whether mathematics can prove everything that's true within its own system.
Oh, look, between the soul,
Suddenly, the bus encounters a large octagonal stop sign. But instead of the word stop, it reads, "This statement is false." The bus shudders violently and stalls, its engine making a confused wheezing sound. Ralphie, what's wrong with the bus? Yes. Frizzle, I'm afraid we've hit a logical paradox. The bus's computer can't determine whether the sign is true or false. If the statement is true, then it must be false. But if it's false, then it must be true. Wanda, so we're stuck. Just then, the fractal forms of ink, might be giants, appear on the dashboard, breaking the fourth wall of their two-dimensional window existence. John L., let me guess your ride is stalled. John F., looks like you've encountered the liar paradox. The undecidable shuffle begins to play, the odd beat matching the disorienting geometry of Escher's ravine.
I wouldn't say that. We'll see. It's been a few hours. Coming up. Put up now, thing and the true. Oh, wait. Gotta restart it. Because, it's a little not loud. Oh, shit. Okay.
Robot A, if you can compute this, stand up. Robot B, if robot A is standing, sit down. But there's one instruction confusing the town. A sticky situation regarding a frown. Listen to the law we scribbled in ink. Listen real close to the whole ship sinks.
You set up a list and you verify that.
Everything fits in a logical hat, but tell the truth or we are totally cursed. Does the set of all sets contain itself or conversely?
Does this little line contradict the verse?
It's true, except when it isn't. It's false, except inconsistent.
It's consistent.
Formal system thinks it's king and lord, but there's always a hole inside of the board. A man in a raincoat walks up with a note, and this is the uncomfortable thing he wrote. This song doesn't
I think what they meant to do here is second verse isn't the same as the first or something like that. Because right now it ironically ends. It ends. So, alright, back to the thingy. We'll just go, let's see. We'll do this. Yep, there we go. Back to the program.
Carlos. Undecidable? What does that mean? John F. That means there are some things in mathematics that can't be proven true or false. They're just undecidable. Dorothy Ann. That's Gödel's incompleteness theorems. My research shows that in any sufficiently complex formal system, there will always be true statements that cannot be proven within the system. Miss Frizzle, precisely Dorothy Ann. Gödel showed that mathematics can never be complete and consistent at the same time. There will always be holes in the system, truths that lie beyond the reach of proof. As the song reaches its abrupt end, the bus shudders one last time and then falls silent, stranded in the paradoxical landscape. Arnold, so you're saying mathematics isn't a universal language? That it's not always true? Yes. Frizzle, it's a language with different dialects. Arnold, some things are always true, like 2 + 2 = 4. But when you get to the really complex stuff, there are always going to be statements that are true but unprovable, or statements that create paradoxes. Keisha, so what do we do now? Were we stuck here forever? Miss Frizzle, not at all. We just need to change our perspective. Liz, engage the category warp. Liz chirps and pushes a bright red button on the dashboard. The bus dissolves around them, and so does the landscape. The very concept of object vanishes. The class finds themselves floating in an abstract space of colorful dots and arrows. Ralphie, whoa, where did everything go? The bus is gone. Miss Frizzle, not gone. Ralphie, just transformed. We're no longer in a bus. We are now the arrow of a function, moving from one dot to another. Welcome to the archipelago of arrows. Carlos, the what and why are we just an arrow? Mess. Frizzle. This, Carlos, is what some mathematicians affectionately call abstract nonsense land, a name you seem to particularly enjoy. Carlos beams with pride. It's because it's so weird. There's nothing here. Mess. Frizzle. Exactly. Welcome to category theory, where objects don't matter. Only the relationships between them do. We're not looking at the things anymore, just at the morphisms, the transformations, the connections. Wanda, So we can't study the trees, but we can study how to get from one tree to another. Miss Frizzle, and in a manner of speaking, yes, in this world, a bagel and a coffee mug are the same object because you can stretch one into the other without breaking it. Tim, so if we're in an arrow, why are we traveling between? Frizzle, we're moving from a domain to a codomain. We're the process of transformation itself. The class floats along the purple arrow connecting two fuzzy dots. As they travel, they begin to see other arrows intersecting and diverging in a complex web of relationships. Dorothy Ann, this is like a map of mathematical functions. The dots are like sets, and the arrows are like functions that map the elements from one set to another. Donnell, you catching on, Dorothy Ann? The fractal forms of They Might Be Giants appear again, this time riding along intersecting arrows on tiny bicycles. Donnell, in category theory, it's all about composition. Donnell, arrow followed by arrow B equals arrow C. It's like a recipe. Mess. Frizzle. Exactly. And one of the most important aspects of category theory is the concept of identity, which can be a bit fluid in this realm. Take a look. As a mess, Frizzle speaks, the class sees another group of travelers. The mug tribe, being shaped like coffee mugs, transforming into the bagel people by stretching their handles into holes. The two groups then interact as if they were identical. Phoebe. So they're the same, but different? Miss Frizzle. Topologically identical Phoebe. The relationship to each other is what defines them, not their individual shapes. Liz adjusts another dial, and the arrow they're on suddenly twists and turns, weaving through a dense forest of other arrows. Ralphie, this is making my head spin. I missed the boss. At least the boss was, well, a boss. Nice. Frizzle, never fear, Ralphie. We're approaching our next destination, where symmetry reigns supreme. Brace yourselves for the monster's lair. The class finds themselves at the edge of a vast, shimmering space filled with an overwhelming array of multidimensional geometric patterns, rotating, shifting, and reforming in impossible ways. It's like a diamond cloud seen through a kaleidoscope, but with thousands of dimensions. Wanda, what is this place? It's so symmetrical, but symmetrical in ways I can't even imagine. Mess. Frizzle. This, Wanda, is a glimpse of the monster group, the largest and most complex of the finite simple groups, with a staggering 8x10, 53 elements and symmetries in 196,883 dimensions. Dorothian, 196,883 dimensions. That's more than exist. Yes. Frizzle. In our space, perhaps, but in the world of abstract algebra, dimensions are just numbers. To navigate this place, we need to expand our own dimensions. Liz pulls a lever, and the class feels a strange, stretching sensation, as if their bodies are being pulled into spaces they never knew existed. The arrow they were traveling in transforms back into a bus, but now it's a hyperdimensional bus, its exterior reflecting an impossible number of perspectives at once. Carlos, I feel stretched, like I'm in multiple places at once. Tim, the bus looks squishy, like a taffy machine exploded. Mess. Frizzle, don't worry, Tim. We're just adapting to the environment. The monster group is a mathematical object of extraordinary symmetry, so symmetrical that it was once called moonshine, because of its seemingly impossible connections to other fields of mathematics. As the bus flies through the monster's lair, the class sees strange connections, glowing threads linking the symmetrical patterns to other mathematical structures, like modular forms in string theory. John F., you're witnessing the monstrous moonshine conjecture. John L., where bizarre symmetry from group theory unexpectedly links to a completely different area of number theory. Ralphie, so these math things are talking to each other across different subjects? Ness. Frizzle. That's the beauty of it, Ralphie. Mathematics is an interconnected web, a universe of ideas with hidden pathways and secret passageways. Even the most seemingly unrelated concepts can turn out to be deeply connected. The bus follows one of these glowing threads, leaving the monster's lair and entering a new, even stranger landscape. Here, the very fabric of mathematics seems to be coming apart at the seams. Numbers and symbols float freely, breaking away from their usual relationships and floating like untethered balloons. Arnold. Frizzle, what's happening to the numbers? They're not staying together. Mess. Frizzle. We've reached the final frontier of our journey, Arnold. The interuniversal tasmon of theory. This is where even the most fundamental laws of mathematics are being questioned and written. The bus's engine starts to sputter, and the body of the bus begins to fragment, its yellow panels dissolving into floating equations. The class can see through the disintegrating walls to a landscape of mathematical universes, each a self-contained island of numbers and symbols, drifting in an endless void. Keisha, it looks like all the math universes are floating apart. They're not touching anymore. Mess. Frizzle, that's because in this world, a mathematician named Shinichi Machizuki has proposed a way to separate the fundamental operations of addition and multiplication, creating distinct, independent mathematical universes. Dorothy Ann, but if addition and multiplication aren't connected, how can anything be proven? My research shows that most of mathematics relies on those operations working together. Miss Frizzle, and that's the controversy, Dorothy Ann. This theory is so revolutionary, so counterintuitive, that even the world's top mathematicians are struggling to understand it. The bus continues to disintegrate, and the class finds themselves floating in the void, tethered to their seats only by the laws of the field trip. Wanda, I feel like we're glitching, like a video game character whose textures haven't loaded. Ralphie, the bus is coming apart. I can see straight through the floor, too. Nothing. Suddenly, the fractal forms that they might be giants appear on a floating fragment of the dashboard, looking more abstract and stretched than ever before. Donna F., you're experiencing the great dissociation. John L., where the fundamental rules are questioned. The intro to Nobody Can Check My Math begins, the bass line and drums playing in different tempos, creating a sense of disorientation.
Disorientation and mucus. Actually, the name of the song is Farther Away Than Far. Sorry. My bad. Oh. Wait. Never had one lesson in production.
We used to stick the numbers in the stew. station, but the wheels are off and the windshield's cracked. We're taking apart every basic arithmetic pack. We are going farther than far away can be. And nobody out there is coming but me. We chopped up the line and we're blending the stars. You can look out the window, but where are the cars? Does anyone know where the definitions go when you're stuck inside the inner universal snow? The questions are massive, the answers are weird. They act so perplexing that everyone feared. But if you are willing to break your machine, you just might behold what nobody sees. A map of the digits completely erased the problem that occupies 6 kinds of space. Sometimes the answer sounds nonsense to every last peer in the hall. Sometimes to master the world, you've got to shatter the ball. Why am I close to the people behind? But I'm parked at the curb of the absolute mind.
My bad. Wrong one. Back to it. Back to adult programming.
John F., you're at the edge of human knowledge. John L., where even the mathematicians feel lost. As the song plays, mess. Frizzle's calm, confident voice cuts through the musical chaos. Mess. Frizzle, this is the loneliest place in all mathematics class, where the explorer is so far ahead that no one can verify their work. Here, the courage to pursue an idea, even if no one understands it, is more important than being right. Keisha, but if no one can check the math, how do we know if it's correct? Ness, Frizzle, that's the question everyone is asking, Keisha. It takes years, sometimes decades, for the mathematical community to catch up with revolutionary ideas. And sometimes they turn out to be wrong. Liz lets out a worry chirp, her tiny claws slipping on a fragmented section of the dashboard. Liz, Ness, Frizzle, the reassembly protocols are failing. The fundamental axioms won't reconnect. Ness, Frizzle, I'm aware, Liz. The inter-universal symmetries have severed the connections. We're going to need to jump dimensions. A mess. Frizzle pulls a lever labeled Hodge Theaters, and the remaining fragments of the bus reform into a cubist contraption, angles intersecting at impossible vertices. The class finds themselves looking through windows that show different versions of reality simultaneously. Carlos, I see a universe where 1 + 1 = blue. Phoebe, in my window, all the circles are squares. Wanda, we've broken everything. Even a rock knows 1 + 1 is 2. Mess. Frizzle. Not in these universes, Wanda. Here, the basic laws are different. But don't worry, we're still connected through the underlying symmetries. The bus, now a cubist marvel of disconnected geometry, begins to leap between the floating mathematical islands, each jump causing the class to feel a strange sensation of their identities shifting. Arnold, I don't feel right. I feel like I'm turning into a Taurus. The other students gasp as Arnold's arms seem to stretch and curve, attempting to connect with himself in a topologically new way. Dorothy Ann, according to my notes, if a Taurus is topologically equivalent to a coffee mug, Then Arnold is becoming handle-shaped. Frizzle. Identity is fluid in the inter-universal landscape class. You're experiencing homotopic theory firsthand. But don't worry, we're not going to leave you as a donut. Arnold. The bus completes another dimensional jump, arriving at what looks like the source code of mathematics itself. A cascading waterfall of pure equations, the fundamental relationships between numbers lay bare. Ralphie, whoa! It looks like a waterfall of numbers, but they're not adding up right. 2 plus 2 is 5 here. No, wait, now it's 7. Wanda, the rules keep changing. The equal sign is melting. Mess. Frizzle. Precisely. We're witnessing the fundamental law of addition being written. But to get home, we need to find the original axiom, the one that allows us to define equality itself. Liz, now stretched across a multi-dimensional seat, points with a trembling call toward a faint glimmer in the distance. A tiny, perfect equal sign hovering in the void. Liz! Axiom! Axiom! Mess. Frizzle. Good eye, Liz. That's the axiom of extensionality. It's what allows us to say that two sets are equal if they contain the same elements. It's our ticket home. The Cubus bus rockets toward the glimmer, passing through universes where numbers are living creatures, where shapes have personalities, and where the laws of logic are pure chaos. As they approach, the equal sign grows brighter, bathing the disintegrating bus in a warm, stabilizing glow. Carlos, I think I'm becoming a cube again. Tim, the bus is pulling itself together. The yellow is back. The bus reassembles, piece by piece, its familiar yellow form returning. Arnold's arms uncurl, and he slumps back into his seat with a sigh of relief. Arnold, I never want to be a Taurus again.
Too bad.
Mess.
That's how you
Frizzle.
navigate.
Welcome back to reality, class. Or at least, a version of it. Liz engages the renormalized protocols. Liz chirps and pushes a large, reassuringly red button on the dashboard. The bus shimmers, and the world outside the windows begins to resolve. The strange, disconnected mathematics universe fades, replaced by the familiar sight of their classroom. The bus comes to a gentle stop in its usual parking space. The class begins to file out, but something is off. Ralphie is walking backward. Dorothy Ann is upside down, and Carlos seems to have swapped his left and right sides. Wanda, why does the floor feel like the ceiling? Phoebe, I'm not sure which way is forward. Yes. Frizzle. Yes. Inter-universal journey has left you all in a bit of a topological state. Don't worry. She reaches up and presses a final button, labeled normalize. A gentle wave of green light washes over the classroom, and the students suddenly snap back to their usual orientations. Ralphie sighs in relief. Arnold, we're normal. Thank goodness. I feel like my head is screwed on straight again. Carlos, for a minute there, I thought my reflection was going to start walking without me. Mess. Frizzle. As you can see, class, even the very idea of normal can change depending on the mathematical universe you're visiting. Dorothy Ann. So, after all that, Phoebe's original question, is mathematics a universal language? Yes. Frizzle looks at Phoebe, a warm smile on her face. Ness. Frizzle. Phoebe, I hope our field trip has shown you that mathematics is more of a multiverse of languages. Some have simple rules, some have complex, and some have rules that we're still trying to understand. It's a living, breathing, and sometimes confusing world of ideas. Liz the lizard nods enthusiastically, the bow on her head bobbing. Liz, and it's always a wild ride. The bell rings, signaling the end of the school day. The students gather their things, their minds still reeling from their journey through the abstract landscapes of mathematics. Phoebe, so, it's not always true? Yes. Frizzle, it's always true in its own way. Mr. Tompkins bolts out of bed. Oh my god, that was an elaborate dream. Mass. Frizzle, come back to bed. You know your brain sometimes does this when you're hungry. No one speaks. Then Mess. Frizzle blinks. She turns to face Phoebe, this strange half-memory of a dream of a teacher named Tompkins gone from her thoughts. Frizzle. So, Phoebe, what's the answer? Phoebe, who had been staring into space, jumps. Phoebe, oh, the answer. Right. I think I understand. The world is bigger than we think it is. Mass. Frizzle. And that's the most important truth of all. Title. The equal sign station. The bus drives down an open road that leads to what looks like an airport terminal, except the windows to the terminal are shaped like plus signs, minus signs, and equal signs. Mass. Frizzle. The last stop on our Jaloo. Carlos. Didymus. Frizzle just speak in Chinese? Arnold. I think so. Why did she do that? Mass. Frizzle. Because even languages are math. They're built on repetition, with an empty center. You see, all these languages in this station, and they're all the same. Wanda, same how? Mass. Frizzle. The rules of grammar, for example, are like the axioms of a mathematical system. They tell us how to put things together. The bus drives up to a check-in counter. Liz the lizard types with her tail on the keyboard. Liz, it says we're not allowed in. It says to get in we must prove our own existence to ourselves. Carlos, that's impossible. That's like asking a shadow to show you its face. You can't do it. Mass. Frizzle, but you can. You don't prove things with other things. You have to use the system itself. The bus drives right through a wall. The class gasps. Dorothy Ann, we're a paradox. We just drove through a wall. My research says that's physically impossible. Frizzle, not here. You've got to remember the rules are different here. The only things that are real are the things that we agree are real. And right now, we're all agreeing that we've just driven through a wall. They're on the other side of the wall, driving down a long corridor. Ralphie, I think we're on a roller coaster. A roller coaster of math. Wanda, that's right. The bus is a loop. The bus starts driving in a circle. The world becomes a swirl of shapes, numbers, and symbols. Mr. Tompkins, that same dream again. Mass. Frizzle. Hey, my eyes are up here, and the whole school's gonna hear you. Mr. Tompkins, a man with a mustache that would have been a terrible tragedy even before it wilted under sweat, cringed. The entire classroom was looking at him. Even the chalkboard seemed to have a face on it, scowling at him. Or perhaps he was hallucinating again. He was hallucinating again. The chalkboard face cleared away with a swipe from Frizzle's eraser. There were gasps from the kids. Arnold, where'd it go? Dorothy Ann, it was the Poincare conjecture. Miss. Frizzle, correct. Dorothy Ann. But don't worry, we can just reconstruct it. She started writing. A stream of equations poured from the chalk. The bus drives through a galaxy of numbers. Each number is a star, and each star has planets that are other numbers. Ralphie, this is so cool. Can we do some math? Miss Frizzle, that's an excellent question, Ralphie. Would anyone like to try? Carlos raises a claw. Carlos, I want to prove the continuum hypothesis. Miss Frizzle, that's a great idea, Carlos. But you might want to start with something a little easier. Next wheel. Miss Frizzle and the class meet Timothy S. Coon.
No, wait.
The same episode will be on at the same math. Don't be late.
Okay. So, that itinerary, it followed the itinerary pretty damn well. I'm really amazed by that. Okay. More soon. I'm gonna figure it out. Oh, I gotta turn this off. Hold on. There we go. So that was an experiment with music. Special musical guest, They Might Be Giants. I got approximations. We never wrote those songs. Courtesy of Suno. That's it for right now. I think I forgot what I was gonna want to do. Also, I'll think about it. Come on.